The giant slab of hit points is here in today's video on World of Tanks. And of course, we are taking a look at the KV3. This is one of the funnest tanks I've played in a while, not because it's innately that good. It's not good. It's a giant slab of hit points that your opponents will love to chunk away at. But ultimately, you do have high alpha. You do always have the fact that you can kind of go in and you can just be a nuisance for the opponents. And today's two replays are going to showcase one being just a meme game, genuinely, just where we went in, we had some amazing fun, and that will be the second replay. But this first one is going to showcase that even in a tank which people may kind of presume is not that good, you can still have games that are worthy of actually enjoyment within World of Tanks. So that's kind of what we're after, and of course you can do that on console. You don't need a PC to be able to do it. So with KV3, what we're seeing here is typically probably not the best position if you were against artillery players, because it is Fisherman's Bay, and we all know what happens to any slow tanks that go in the field. You get shut down so quickly by any of these artillery pieces. Now, what you're seeing us do here is we're going after this Black Prince, who's for some reason played way too aggressively, like genuinely going in at this point in the game is ridiculous from him. But he'll take a lot of punishment in doing that. But unfortunately, none of our team are deciding that they're going to do anything. So we load premium. We don't want to bounce any rounds. It's a pain if the Black Prince actually pens you every single time. And of course, that has fairly decent damage per minute. Unfortunately for us, we're actually managing to bounce off of him. That's probably one of the only times where you can bounce off a Black Prince is when you've got the turret, or at least when you're shooting at the turret. But what you can see us doing here, I want to get aggressive. I'm annoyed that this guy even bothered to go forward. So yeah, we're trying to go forward. Now, the AT-15, he creeps out of nowhere, much like the Black Prince, just coming out of nowhere, just trying to be a nuisance. And you can see us, what we're doing here is now just deciding to fully aim, or at least 90% aim. And we put a lovely round into him. AT-15 then gets quickly shut down, as you'd expect from a YOLOing tank destroyer going into the central area of the map, where you're going to get sausage sandwich from both sides. We then go for a snapshot on the VKP, and if you've ever played the Soviet tanks, you definitely don't want to be going for snapshots, but it's been a while since I've played it, so don't hate on me all too much. But you can see here, managing to hit that second shot. You know, when the reticle is basically like 90% tank, you should probably be able to hit him. Now, one of the key negatives of playing in a tank like this is that tanks like the Tiger Shark are a pain in the backside indeed, because they have autoloaders. They don't typically bounce off of you, because ultimately you're in a tank that's giant and boxy and very easy to pen if they can get any flat parts of you. But unfortunately for the Tiger Shark, he absolutely cocks this one up, with lack of a better word, and he goes back around in front of our gun, and because we're not a bot and we know how to free aim, we manage to place another round into him. And at this point, we're just searching down wherever this TD is. I do a little nudge on him because, you know, why not? And then we place a round on the move against the SU-130PM because why the hell not? And of course, when you're playing in these tanks, that is the most satisfying shots, because it's not particularly a great tank. You're playing up against a lot of tanks that are just way better, and there are so many other tier 7 heavies that I'd rather play things like the Hammer, the Tiger 1, all of the various different tanks. And when you're hitting shells like that twice in a row there on the move against opponents, and especially against a light tank on the move, that's a pretty nice one. But that's kind of the high tier gameplay that you're going to be seeing in the KV3. It's usually down to the actual game itself, whether you have a fantastic game. We pick up 1861 base experience, which is good. I'm not claiming for it to be the highest XP game that you're going to be seeing, but luckily we took advantage of all of the additional XP operations that you can have in the game, and we managed to pick up 16,000 XP with the premium bonus event and all of the other bonuses that we have on the account, including times 5 XP bonus, because I don't want to play as many games in the KV3 as you might want to. But there we go. That's the first game. Let's look at another one. Game number 2. This is not a map you want to be seeing in a KV3. A giant map that focuses around hills. And when you're in a tank that does about 30 kilometers an hour, you are going to be hating your life, as I'm sure many people haven't found out if you've ever played the Maus or the E100 or the Type 5 or any of the super heavy tanks and you've played Dragon Ridge, you know exactly what I mean. Even if you played things like the E3, all same thing. The Dragon Ridge is not a nice map if you want to be getting anywhere anytime soon, especially in a heavy tank, but that's kind of what makes this game kind of interesting, because we're able to actually make it work for once. And the KV3 is not a tank you'd expect to be able to do that. So what we're doing at the beginning of the game is just trying to get forward and get into a more aggressive position, because if you're not near the damage, you won't get any in the KV3, which is kind of the disappointing thing about it. So we try and go forward now, and unfortunately we do take a hit there. I know people can spot you and they always try and get you as you cross here, which is why if I was going to play it like super conservatively and I want to make sure every single time I don't take any needless damage, I would have gone the down to my right and actually gone downwards, but it doesn't really matter at this point. We're just going in. It's the KV3. I'm not super sweating because there's no point in the KV3. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot more damage, but the key thing about this game is that we were purely after just a bit of fun, and that's exactly what we have at the end. Now the Caliban here, he's trying to get away. We're kind of just trying to poke a shot on him. Doesn't manage to do anything. I decide at this point I'm bored, and if I don't move, it's going to be even worse. So we place a nice round into the Caliban's backside, and we actually take a shell from the artillery, or at least a miss of a shell from the artillery on the enemy team. And now we're down into a nice position. Caliban tries retreating, firing off a round whilst firing. I don't think that that's particularly the greatest idea in a tank that has terrible accuracy, but there you go. And from this point, the Lorraine finishes off the Caliban, because why not? But there you go. At this point, it's time to move. In a tank like this, you've got to keep moving, otherwise you get left behind at the back with absolutely no one else to help you. So that's where you've got to keep moving. And you're seeing here, we're just trying to go for some shells. The shell velocity on the standard rounds of the KV3 are terrible, so you have to have not only very good aim at this first place, but you also have to be able to lead a lot of shots. And luckily for us, the T-71DA actually stops in the middle of the open. I think he may have been tracked, but we finish him off nonetheless. So from this point, I think we all know how the game is going to end up. The enemy team haven't moved out of the base, and we're just going to be mopping up damage. So what can we do? Well, in the KV3, you can't be too aggressive because everyone will pen you through the front, especially when you're in a lower tier game. But what you can do is not be able to pen an ISM anywhere, even in the turret with standard rounds, other than the Cupola, which we somehow hit with a very, very poorly accurate gun. So yeah, it's typical. I can tell you, if you were playing in the Grill 15 and you fully aim that, you probably would have missed. But in a tank that genuinely has no accuracy, you would hit. It's just how it works. But the Dreadnought here, it's a tank that we all know, and we all fear the bloody Dreadnought from coming out of nowhere and dealing a ton of damage to us, stealing 700 hit points. But Dreadnought is pretty weak when it comes to coming down a hill, and that's exactly what the KV3 does. It's an absolute meme. That was so satisfying when you see a tank that's just ridiculously good and you just pummel it with a tank that's pretty useless. The best thing to do at a tank like that is to throw it yourself at him. Yeah, it felt so rewarding, and it's been such a long time since I've actually YOLO'd down a hill. And actually like full health someone from a ram pretty much, other than the shot we actually took into him. Yeah, I was so satisfied with that, and I really do love it when that sort of thing happens. We then try and fully aim on the Freedom, and luckily we do actually pen. So at this point, the damage is just kind of racking up, and we can kind of just poke and be a little bit of a nuisance. Unfortunately for me, I don't actually fully aim properly, and we end up only bouncing off of the Freedom. And from here, we've got 2,500 damage and 1,000 assists, and we're now just hunting down the damage. And this is 99% of your games in the KV3 when you do actually end up on the winning team, is that you spend half your life travelling towards the tank, and by the time you get there, usually your team have mopped up the damage and they've moved on to the next tank who's halfway across the map, if not further away, and then you genuinely have no chance of getting any extra damage. But don't worry, we're not getting any extra chance of any damage in this game because our team decide to cap. Yeah. Why? I have no idea, but there you go. Trying to pick up the enemies is not worth it apparently to the Kappas, but nonetheless we still pick up the top spot for that lovely ram, and it was pretty much because of that ram that we had an okay game, and that's why I focused it on this channel. We had a few higher damage games, but it was for the meme value. Hopefully you did enjoy this little video on the KV3. I certainly enjoyed playing it. It's not a tank that's good, but sometimes it's actually quite fun to play a tank that's not that good. Hopefully you did enjoy as well. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, ask anything that you need in the comments. It doesn't have to be related to this video, and I will try my best to answer them. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you there. Goodbye.